Hello everybody, thank you for tuning in. My name's Erin and I'm from the Local History Department at Dundee Central Library. And I'm going to be uploading a story or a legend or something interesting from Dundee's past here every Thursday for you. And I'm going to start off today with a legend that takes place around about the year 1530. And at this time, as you might know, Dundee was a much smaller place than it is now. And the city was protected by a wall which stopped any ne'er-do-wells getting in to attack the city. And the hill town at this time, it was known as Bonnet Hill, and it was a populated place, but this was outside of the city walls. So it did have a reputation for being a wee bit of a wild and a lawless place. It was still the main route into Dundee for a lot of people though, so it was frequently used by travellers. And one of the travellers who used this road a lot was a man named Couttie. And Couttie was a drover, and this was the name for somebody who kept herds of cattle and would walk long distances with them to sell the cattle at markets. So Couttie would make his way down from his home out in the hills into Dundee to sell his cows every so often. And he had been into Dundee for a market one day, and he was just setting off on his way back up the hill, just him and his faithful wee collie dog. And he had his wits about him because he knew the reputation of the hill town, and he also knew that the pocket full of money that he'd got from selling the cows was going to be his only income for months. So when he heard footsteps coming up behind him, he was a bit suspicious. But when he saw the man walking behind him, he thought he looked harmless enough. He was a man wearing the humble rags of a beggar. And they got to walking together as they were going the same way, and they got to talking. And this man was not keen to say much to Couttie about who he was or where he came from, but he was very well versed in the news and politics of the day, so they had a good chat about that as they went up the road. And Couttie thought that he was going to have an easy journey that day. But when they got to the top of the hill, his dog started growling in fear. And almost before they knew what was happening, a crowd of armed robbers had leapt out and attacked them. Now, Couttie scrambled about in his pocket for the wee knife that he kept for emergencies, and he did his best to fight off the robbers. He was pleased to see that his new friend seemed to be quite a good fighter as well, and his wee dog was doing its best with teeth and claws to fight them off. But there were many more robbers than there were of them, and Couttie was getting to the point where he couldn't really see a way out of this situation. And he was just starting to despair when he heard his new friend call out, "Fight on, Couttie, for the face of a king is terrible." Now, at that point, both Couttie and the robbers had the same realisation. This was no wandering beggar. This was King James V. There was a rumour that the King of Scotland liked to wander the country in disguise to see how his citizens behaved when they were not on ceremony with him, but none of them had really believed it up till that point. And the robbers, thinking that the king would have an army just out of sight, took to their heels and fled, and left Couttie and the king in peace to finish their journeys. Now, it was said that King James was so impressed with Coutie's bravery that day that he decided to make him a gift of a piece of land right in the centre of Dundee. And that piece of land is still called by his name today. That is the street that we now know as Coutie's Wynd. And after that day, Couttie and his dog had a much more comfortable life than they had had before. And of course, because we do have the Street Coutie's wine, we know that must be a true story. But there are lots of legends about King James V going about Scotland in disguise and getting up to various tricks in different parts of the country. And this is Dundee's version of that legend. So thank you for listening today, and please get in touch in the comments here or on the Dundee Library's Facebook, or we're also on Twitter at DundeeLH. Let us know if you've got any questions or comments or anything you would like to see covered in future videos, and we will see you next Thursday. Bye bye.